All right, 1 second here. All right, we're going holding by the Book of Leviticus, chapter 18. Again, we're going holding by the Book of Leviticus, chapter 18. We're still in verse 2, and we'll be there for, I don't know, a little bit. We'll see how far we get. And the first verse says, again, Book of Leviticus, chapter 18, verse 1, by the Bereshit of Moshe Lemor, God spoke to the Jewish people, saying, the Be'er b'nei Yisrael v'yamar talehem ani Hashem Elokeichem. It says, speaking to the children of Israel, say unto them, I am the eternal your God, right? I am the Lord your God. So Rashi there said that we said many weeks ago that I'm the Lord your God means you accepted what we're supposed to keep. You accepted God's kingship, right? But in the days of Ezra, he said we revolted against restricting sexual relations. That's what the whole chapter seemingly is about. But we've been speaking about the last number of weeks this idea's connection between what I see and how the mind takes it in. Now we spoke last week that you had two things going on. You had something that you saw, and then it manifests in thought, right? And how I'm going to think, I'm going to look at this thing, whatever it is. And he says, what does that do? It weakens against person's desires. Meaning that what? That a person, what they see, manifests in their mind, and from their mind, it becomes part of your psyche, right? It becomes part of your soul, meaning that it doesn't disappear, it's always there, right? It doesn't matter how many years go by, etc. It's there. Person sees something, they remember, right? They certainly remember, even if they haven't heard about it or thought about it, for a very long time, for many years, right? Think about an old commercial you haven't thought about in a long time, right? It's there, right? Someone plays the jingle you haven't thought about it in 20 years, comes back, right? It's there. Now, something that's interesting here that we mentioned as well is that that we said before, a person sees something, it manifests in their mind. And he says, I don't need to mention. What don't I need to mention? I don't need to mention if a person ate something and it affects them. Right? What does it do? It's in his hands, meaning in the hand of desire. So you ate something. Even something permissible. We're not even talking about something forbidden. Something permissible. Now, what happens? A lot of things that we eat, they put certain chemicals in. That does what? That shows us that we're overcome by having more. Right? You can't just eat, one Vlasic pickle or one potato chip or whatever. You got to eat a lot. Right? So you say, okay, within reason. Within reason, very good, but what happens? So you could say the manufacturers put certain things in there to make us eat more, to make us want it more. Okay. But what's he talking about over here? He says you eat something, and it elevates your desire. Now, why would that happen? Now, let's say you ate something healthy. Very good. So if I ate something healthy, now, shouldn't that cause me to eat other healthy things? Yeah, maybe. But if a person does something, here's talking about food. And if I ate from something, what does it do? It feeds your desire. Person, let's say a person likes to snack. So if you fulfill that desire of snacking, whatever it is, crackers, cookies, all these, things not healthy, let's say. Things that are healthy doesn't matter. What does it cause, though? It causes a desire for more. Just because the person fulfilled that desire does not mean the desire goes away. Right? When it comes to, we'll keep this clean when it comes to relations. Yeah. After a person does what he does, does it make them stop? Doesn't make them stop. Right? The more a person has, the more they want. Right? That's just the nature. It's the nature of desire. You tell me God gave the strongest desire, good. We're going to use it in the right way. Right? But even so, it doesn't, once the person has the desire, what happens? Desire gets stronger. Right? Whether it's food or other things, it gets stronger. So what happens? So what did God give us the ability to do? To fight against it. So he says that we have to make ways to fight against it, right? It goes against what we're doing, right? You wage war, he says. You got to wage war against the evil inclination. Well, very good. God gave us an opportunity to do that. How does he do that? He gave us the Torah, right? He created what we call the refuah before the market. He created the antidotes, right? The antidote, really, before you get whacked, before the difficulty. He already gave you a solution. How are you going to get helped? How's that? Torah. Torah's going to give you that ability, but it's a fight, right? It is an absolute fight. And a person is going to have their desires are going to get stronger. So if the desires are going to get stronger, God had to give you a way to fight it. So how does God give you a way to fight it? Torah. Now, what's the problem? What's the obvious problem? The obvious problem is, Chosvova says, he says, in the gate of serving God. What's the problem? The body has an unfair advantage. Why does the body have an unfair advantage? Because it came from the dust of the earth. It's part of this world. So every second, once the baby's born, what is it doing? Fulfilling desire. Yeah. Now the soul, you're going to say, is very powerful. God puts the soul in the body. Very good. So the soul is supposed to overcome that. The soul is supposed to fight against it. Okay. Now, even if the soul is very strong, the only way to fight against desire and all these things is through Torah. Very good. But the soul is out of its element. Way out of its element. The spiritual world is very far away. But you have to strengthen the soul. How do you strengthen the soul? Torah. Very good. Even with Torah, it's at a disadvantage. It's at a major disadvantage. But, says Chosvova, the saving grace is, if you tap into the soul the right way, right? Even if a person has desires, through Torah, what does it do? It strengthens the soul. It gives you the ability to fight, right? To fight against desire. So then he says, there's two things going on over here. What do you have? Person is made up of body and soul, right? The body gets illuminated if you go according to the body, right? In general, you could debase the body, debase the soul. If you go according to the soul, you want to go according to spirituality, very good. You want to tap into Torah, you elevate the body, you elevate the soul, very good. Right? Very good. Problem is, the body's very strong. And that's what we say. That's what we say. Right? The Gemara Bracha says 34b. In a place where Bali Tshuva stand, people didn't grow up religious. They become religious as Orthodox Jews. Very good. The righteous person can't stand there. Right? In other words, a Baal Tshuva is greater. Seemingly greater. Right? Why? Because they have much more tests. They didn't, they didn't grow up, religious. They didn't grow up with an element in order to go against desire and work on things, right? They grew up in in an ownerless world, so to speak. But nonetheless, they have tests that righteous people don't have. Yeah, but he says, Tzaddikim Gemorim, if they're truly righteous, then they're always doing God's will. They don't need to work hard over here. They don't need to work hard to push away the evil inclination. Now, it doesn't mean they don't have an evil inclination, right? They have an evil inclination. Well, it's not the same as someone who's tapped in, to things they shouldn't do, right? They have to work much harder. Very good. They have to work much harder. A truly righteous person, that's what he's talking about here, they don't have to work so hard. Doesn't mean they don't have an evil inclination. Don't make that mistake. They have an evil inclination at their level. Yeah, but they don't have the same evil inclination as someone who's steeped in sin, right? Or done things wrong in the past. Now, the only way to get around this is that a person has to know whatever they did yesterday, today's a new day. My Rebbe would say, you live in the past, you have no future, you can't dwell on it. Because if you dwell on it, the evil inclination will make mincemeat out of you, will destroy you. See, you want to be so righteous. See, you want to change. But see, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to tap into the same thing you shouldn't be tapping into. You're going to feed whatever that desire is. So how are you going to stop it? You can't stop it, so you might as well give up. Might as well just enjoy it. Forget about the next world. Forget about what punishment's going to come, this and that. Just live for today. Right? Eat to live to eat. That's it. Evil inclination will destroy you. Now, that doesn't mean you blow it off totally. Right? Doesn't mean that. But, you got to make a plan. How are you going to fight against it? So, the reality is, though, as we mentioned last week, the reality is someone who's truly righteous, who doesn't have the same evil inclination. Let's say someone who struggled with things, earlier in their lives, whenever it is. So really, they're on a higher level. They are definitely on a higher level. Now, they don't have the same tests, which is true. So the Gemara says, in a place where Bali Tshuva stands, returnees to Judaism where stand, the righteous person can't stand there. Why can't they stand there? Does that mean they're not as great? No. Well, what does it mean they can't stand there? They can't stand there, they don't have the same tests. They're not going to the same thing. A person who's got a test, let's say, to eat kosher. And for, some people, that's a hard test. They like eating, non-kosher things. Okay. Righteous person doesn't have that desire. They'll never have that desire. Yeah. Well, what's it going to feel like to eat shrimp or lobster or any of these things? You're not going to have that desire. Right? You won't have the same desires as this person. It's on a higher level. Now, why would we say it's a higher level? So we mentioned before that Isaac and Rivka pray. Right? They both pray to find out what's going on inside of Rivka. At these, Yaakov and Esav, fighting inside the womb before they're born. So, they both pray, and whose prayer gets answered? Yitzhak. You're going to say, wait a minute, Rivka's father wasn't righteous. She became righteous. Her father's not righteous. So why isn't her prayer listened to? Say, but what about Yitzhak? Look at Yitzhak. His father was righteous. He himself was righteous. So what's easier? What's easier, to be born, with great, parents, grandparents, whatever, great pedigree, and go in that direction and continue to go in that direction? All your, let's say all your siblings are religious, your cousins are religious, whatever. Much easier. Much, much easier to a certain extent. Someone who has to fight for their Torah and fight against people around them and influences around them, they have it harder. That's true. They struggle more. That's true. But for someone to, even if they are brought up in a righteous family, right? Even if they're brought up in a righteous family, to stay righteous, Torah, we say, is on inheritance, right? It doesn't get passed down automatic. Everyone has to fight for their own Torah. But you'll say it's easier, and my father, grandfather, great-grandfather are religious. True. I mean, it wasn't the case necessarily in Yitzhak's case, right? His father was righteous, mother was righteous, grandparents weren't. Okay. Doesn't matter. You grow up with those type of parents who, are the base of the Jewish people, right? Avram's called Av Hamon Goyim, father of all nations. Everybody recognizes Avram as being great, right? Certainly the Muslims do. Everybody, understands who Avram was. Very good. They're going to say, well, Yitzchak's a chip off the old block, right? Goes after his father. Very good. So, but what happened? What happened to Ishmael? So he got after his father, right? He got some of the characteristics of his father. But, but his mother was Hagar, right? So he Avram loved him. He definitely loved him, no question. But spiritually, it had to go to Yitzchak. But okay, so if you have those type of parents, wouldn't you be righteous? It would be easier, let's say, easier to be righteous. So how do you not get burned out over here? Yeah, how do you stay on that path and become, as great or just as great as your father? That's not an easy thing. Now again, if he had all these trials, like a Baal Tshuva would have, it's a different issue. Struggles with a lot of different things. He had trials. Abraham had many trials, right? Isaac himself had many trials. Okay. But, are they the same trials as someone who is not righteous? They're different trials. Okay. But someone to go on that path, born that way, harder. Much harder. Probably easier to get burnt out. Other things. Nonetheless, it's on a high level. Because it doesn't have those same struggles. Right? On the other hand, though, you tell me, but righteous person cannot stand where a Baal Tshuva stands. Now, that's true, except for the fact that the Baal Tshuva is going to have struggles that a righteous person won't have. So the righteous person will not have those struggles. We can't stand where a Baal Tshuva stands. Good. Doesn't mean he's not righteous or more righteous. Right? So, they have different, evil inclinations here. And even by someone who's great and someone who may be a Torah giant does not mean they don't have an evil inclination. At their level, they also have an evil inclination. Not the same, not the same as someone struggles about what they see or what they eat. They don't have that struggle. They don't have that struggle. We brought down a story before that even a doubt, one of the great rabbis of the Talmud, even if a doubt of something they might have seen, could have caused a negative thing, they burned their eyes out. They plucked their eyes out. And only until God had promised to never come to such a test, God had to make a promise, and then the angel Raphael went and healed them. So you say, come on, no one's holding that way today. Okay, but that's the effect. That's the effect. I'm not saying we have to blind ourselves. You got to be careful what you see, no question. When the Torah says, as we say in the Shema every day, in the third paragraph, you don't go after your eyes. Right? So you don't go after your heart, then you don't go after your eyes. So the Rambam says going after your eyes applies to men as well as women. Applies equally to men and women. Now you say, a man's got a bigger test. Okay, maybe. A woman also has a test. She's also tested. She's also not allowed to go after her eyes. Now this rabbi in the Talmud, there was a doubt whether he was affected by it or not. And just to make sure that the evil inclination would not take hold of him, so he got a student to get him a peg or a nail, right, and bring him fire, and he lit it on fire and he put it in his eyes. From that, the evil inclination, the angel of death, whatever you want to call him, the Satan over there, it says he jumped. He jumped backwards. Right? Never saw such a thing. He was there to tempt him to sin. Very good. Right? So the rabbi felt maybe the evil inclination is going to overcome me. Right? Which it didn't at this point. But he said, maybe it will. I don't want to become overcome by the evil inclination. So what did he do? He blinded himself. Comes along the Satan, Mr. S, whatever you want to call him, right? And what happened? He was shocked. He was totally shocked. Never saw such a thing. He jumped backwards, fell backwards. Now at that point, God says, fine, send send the angel will fall to heal him. So he refused. Not the angel, but his rabbi refused. He didn't want to be healed. He was still worried it's maybe going to affect him, or he's going to be tested again in the future. So God makes the promise himself. God says, Ani Aref. He says, I will be a guarantor. God himself says, I'll be a guarantor that it'll never happen again. This will never happen again. God made the promise. After he heard that, he allowed the angel to fall to heal him. Right? That's what happened. So again, is anyone in this generation or even close going to do something like that? No. Right? We're certainly not at that level. But isn't the effect severe? Isn't the effect what we think, what we see and what we think? Isn't it severe? It's so severe, it never leaves you. These things can be part of you for years and years. I was talking to someone about it this morning. Yeah. I said, think of any jingle, any commercial, like in the last 20 years. I said, I'll say the words, you'll tell me the jingle. Yeah. Easily. Why? Because it's there. Doesn't matter if you haven't thought about it for 20 years. Doesn't matter if you haven't thought about it for 50 years. Did disappear. Did not disappear. Right? Did not disappear. Now, the Or Chaim HaKadosh goes further. And he says, this is what it means. That God himself, what did he do? What did he do over here? Right? He brought down this mitzvah, right? I am the Lord your God. Right? In order that what? See, what is he speaking about? What's the Torah here speaking about? He's speaking about the evil inclination. Speaking about the evil inclination. Right? See, there are 13 different ways that we say every day in the morning for our main prayers, that there are 13 different ways to do biblical exegesis. Now, why do I mention that? Because again, what does the Torah here say? See, this is why you need the rabbis tell us what it means. Because essentially, we do not know how to learn verses, right? Even seemingly simple, simple verses. Says the Torah over here, Daber al Bnei Yisrael, verse 2, chapter 18, verse 2. Daber al Bnei Yisrael ve'amart alehem, Ani Hashem Elokeichem. Go speak to the children of Israel, the Jewish people. Say to them, I am the Lord your God. And what? What are you going to tell them? Right? Okay, so you need the third verse, which we haven't got to yet. Like the actions of Egypt, don't go according to the actions of Egypt, right? And the actions of the people of Canaan, that I'm going to bring you in these places, don't go in their way. Right? We'll speak quite a bit about that. Now, at this point, I don't know this verse. I don't know what it's referring to. Yeah? But you'll tell me, come on, the whole chapter, as Rashi says, what it's talking about? Immorality. The whole chapter is about immorality, except for a few verses. The whole chapter itself is about immorality. Right? So Rashi said before, first of all, it's taking on the yoke of heaven, right? You're going to accept whatever God says. But then in the days of Ezra, they would ultimately revolt against restrictive sexual relations. So you need him to tell me that. You need the Or Chaim over here, the Or Chaim HaKadosh, to tell me this. That corresponds to the evil inclination. Because all the Torah here tells me is, speak to the children of Israel and tell them, I'm the Lord your God. Now, what would our obvious explanation be? What would our question be? The obvious question would be, and? So you're going to say, I need the next verse. I can't know anything until I know the next verse. All right. But Rashi already knows the next verse. Commentaries also know the next verse. Yeah. So if I look at it at face value, even according to King James, whoever you want to translate it, it says, I am the Lord your God. Yeah? Speak to the children of Israel and say, I'm the Lord your God. Well, doesn't the Torah say that many times? Many, many times. The Torah says, speak to the children of Israel, say to them this, say to them that, say to the other thing. Right? Tell them I'm the Lord your God. Mentioned many, many times. So what's so special over here? You're going to say emphasis. Very good. What am I going to do with emphasis? Right? How's that going to help me? So it says it many, many times. Now, obviously, the Torah doesn't say things for no reason. Right? So now I have to understand what's the difference over here that's not in any other place. So let's say there are a dozen times the Torah says, Ani Hashem Elokeichem. Right? We're going to see Leviticus chapter 19. Right? I don't know, we're going to get there. Maybe we're about 102. But I should live that long. Right? Verse 2. 19 verse 2. Daber el kol adas b'nei Yisrael. V'yamart alehem kedoshim tiyu hikadosh ani Hashem Elokeichem. Right? Speak to the Jewish people. Right? To the Jewish people. Say to them that you should be holy. Because I am holy. I'm the Lord your God. All right? God says he's holy. And I'm the Lord your God. Referencing difference of opinion. What it's talking about. One opinion is staying away from forbidden relationships. Another opinion is that it's permissible to eat, permissible to drink, doesn't mean you should be overweight. Doesn't mean you should be a glutton, doesn't mean you should be an alcoholic. Yeah? But I need someone to tell me what it means. Again, it says, Ani Hashem Elokeichem. I am the Lord your God. Beautiful. And, right? You go to Exodus chapter 20. Verse 2, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. Again, not exactly the same language here. Similar language, because I took you out of Egypt. Very good. Okay. Do I apply that? Do I apply that every time it says, Ani Hashem Elokecha? I'm the one who took you out of Egypt? Is it only in context? I hated that answer. Like sometimes, Aramaic, the word Aleph Yud Nun can mean ain, like it will not be. Or if you put a dot at the very beginning of the word underneath the aleph, it's in. In means yes. Right? So I remember when I was first learning how to learn, that question would come up. How do you know it means not this? Or it means yes? What was the answer? What was the famous answer? That's the answer anyone would tell you. Context. Right? No one wants to hear that. I mean context. I have to sit there and try and figure it out every time in context. Whether it's this, whether it means not, or it means yes. I have to look like every single time comes up and I have to remember, right? So what's the obvious answer? The obvious answer is, the person learned enough, you'll know. You'll know straight away what it's referring to. You won't have to think about it. Because you've seen it so many times, you know if it says Ein Ella, it means only. Very good. But if it says this, in, that, not, then you know it means yes. Right? It's very simple. Yeah, but, when you first learn how to learn, it's confusing. Right? How am I going to figure this out? How am I going to figure out what it means? So in the context. Right? In the context. Now, so again, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am the Lord your God. You need someone to tell me what that refers to. If someone doesn't tell me what it refers to, right, then how do I know what it is? How do I know what it refers to? So here the Or Chaim HaKadosh says, first of all, it says, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I'm the Lord your God. So this mitzvah that God's going to tell you, which is in the next verse, which we'll get to at some point, right? What is that corresponding to? What's the mitzvah corresponding to? Don't go in the ways of the Egyptians. Do not go in the ways of the Canaanites. What's it referring to? He says it corresponds to evil inclination. Right? That a person has to be in control. And you got to fight against your evil inclination. So then he says, another hard thing over here. He says, how can it be that a normal person, right, a normal person according to nature, they're going to have control over their desires? Because what happens when a person has desires and onus? You're out of control. Right? It's against your will. You don't really want to do this. You don't really want to see this, even if it's enjoyable. What do you want to? You're under onus. Right? It's beyond your control. Onus means it's something out of your control. Something out of your control. So how are you supposed to fight something in your nature that now becomes part of your nature if it's out of your control? So you're gonna, person starts thinking certain thoughts, even of things they saw, let's say, years ago, or whatever it is. They start thinking certain thoughts. We'll say these thoughts are forbidden. You're gonna say, it's not my fault. Right? Couldn't our claim against God be, you can't punish me for this? Right? God can say, why not? You say, onus. It's not my fault. My brain sort of went crazy, thinking about other things. This thing popped into my mind. Very good. Right? Why isn't that onus? Right? Why isn't that onus? Right? Now, what's the simple answer? Simple answer is the person saw something, something popped up on your screen. You had no intention to see it. It popped up on your screen. That's an onus. That for sure is an onus. You got to get a better pop-up blocker. Okay. Right? But that's an onus. Now, what happens? What happens if, okay, that picture came up, whatever the picture is, and now you start thinking about it. Let's say, I don't know, let's say an image of Shrek showed up. Then you start thinking, oh, I saw that movie like years ago. And, all of a sudden you start thinking about this, that's not an onus anymore. The onus is only if it's out of your control. You saw this picture of Shrek right in front of your face. It popped up for some reason. Okay. Right? You had no intention to see it. You get rid of it. You move on. Good. That's an onus. That 100%, no one will be punished for it. That's an onus. But now if you start thinking about it, and it's, oh yeah, I remember this part. Oh yeah, I remember that part. Let's say you don't even go look it up to watch it. Let's say. Yeah, but you're thinking about it. Once you start thinking about it, then it becomes forbidden. Then you can't claim onus because that's part of your mind now, right? If you're working hard, something popped up, you're working hard, get this picture out of your mind. Don't think about it, think Torah, think other things. That's an onus, right? That's an onus the person will not get punished for. If it's something now, the picture came up and now you start thinking other things and you start, whatever, you start thinking, that becomes not an onus anymore. That person can get punished for. What he says, how are you going to fight this? This is a natural thing. It's a natural thing. Right? See, no one's going to like this because they're going to say, there's no way out over here. Because the person's going to say, if it's part of my nature, if it's part of my nature in general, I can't fight it. It's part of my nature. Now, let's say certain parts of our nature God gave to us. Yeah, He wired our DNA. So we are a product of our parents, whether we like it or not. We have DNA from them. Very good. So everyone's got, deficiencies they need to work on. Some more, some less, whatever it is. Good. Now, God can say, what can a person say? A person can say, God, what do you want from me? You made me this way. Let's say it's not something you did yourself. God made you that way. You have certain DNA. Very good. So you're going to say it's onus. You gave me extra dose of anger. You gave me extra dose of who knows what. It's your fault. You gave it to me. See, so God can say, you're right. I wanted you to work on it. That is what your message in this world is, to work on this, right? That's what I want. That's what your soul needs to work on. So I gave you more of it. Very good. But you're going to say, if I fail, okay, you failed, right? You failed. So you're going to say, it's not my fault. Why isn't it your fault? Because you made me this way. Again, we are, we are the only being that has free will. Animals do not have free will. Animals have the animalistic soul, what we call the nefesh behemoth. They are programmed. They can choose to eat, not to eat. They are programmed. 100%, right? Animals, plants, the stars, the moon, they're all programmed. The only being in the world that has free choice to make whatever decision they want is us. It's mankind. We can make the right choice, make the wrong choice. We're not programmed. So a person can never make that claim. They can say, wow, you made me this way. Okay. So let's say that's part of our DNA, which makes it harder to fight. If God did it, not us. If we did it to ourselves, we have no excuse, right? But let's say a person acted on their own instinct that God gave them, part of their DNA. Not that they did it themselves. This you could say, it's not my fault. You gave me extra doses of this. You made it much harder. Very good. He made it much harder. Okay. Now, God's going to answer, right? If I was God, put on my funny George Burns glasses, my funny mustache, right? Everyone know what I'm referring to. And what's the question going to be? Well, what would he say? Right? What would God say? You're right. I gave you this DNA. I did not want you to do it. I wanted you to fight against it. But it's part of my psyche. It's part of my soul. How in the world am I supposed to fight it? So we have Torah. Torah's the antidote. Right, as we said. But he's asking a fundamental question. He said, if that's true, and you're under onus, you're under a natural onus. Natural things beyond your control. He says, how in the world can you fight that? How can you control that? It's part of you, right? It's part of you. So you're going to say, it's not my fault. That's who I am. That's my nature. That's how you made me. God's going to say you're 100% right. Only one problem. I made you that way. So you have an extra dose of whatever you fill in the blank, whatever the character trait is. And I gave you this, but I want you to work on it. I didn't give it to you just to give it to you. I wanted, this is something I wanted you to work on. Right? This is something you got to work hard on. Right? I'm not telling, I didn't say it's going to be easy. Right? Right? I didn't say it's supposed to be easy, but I gave you this specifically for you. And everyone's got their own trials and tribulations, especially for them. That's just the way it is. So he says, so if you're under onus, you're going to claim onus. What's God going to say? He says, no onus. You're right, I made you that way, but I didn't tell you to do this. I didn't tell you to do this. Right? Doesn't matter what your nature is. God wants you to overcome it. He wants you to work hard against it. So he says, even if you're under onus, even if it's beyond your control, and it's a natural thing, how in the world are you supposed to fight it? Not my question. This is what the Or Chaim HaKadosh asks. How am I supposed to fight it? How in the world am I supposed to fight it? So he says, it's inherent in every person that God obligated us what? To guard ourselves equally. Everyone has an opportunity and obligation to guard themselves equally. But he says people that are able to stand up have special strength to go against their desires. Yeah, it's also a loaded statement. He's telling you everyone has the ability to guard themselves from things that are forbidden. Now, there are people that do not have, I know something like this. They have no willpower at all, none. In other words, someone would say, I know I should be eating this. It's going to add weight and all that, but if you put it in front of me, I'll eat it. What does that tell you? They have no willpower. They don't want to have willpower. They have no willpower, period. Say if I was home, I would never buy this stuff. Okay. But you have no willpower. They have absolutely no willpower. Now, here he says, how are you supposed to fight against it? God gives people the ability to guard themselves. It doesn't say he gives righteous people the ability. He says he gives people part of their nature to guard themselves. He's not singling out righteous people. He's saying everybody has that ability. Not only that, we'll make it even more difficult. He says people are able to stand up against it. And they have power. They have will to fight against these desires. Now, why do I say it's a loaded statement? Because people say, what do you want from me? I'm an infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust. How in the world does God expect little old me, right? Lives in a town, is part of a city, part of a state, part of a country, part of a continent, part of a planet, part of a galaxy, right? We're getting much smaller. Little old me, sitting somewhere. And God's saying, you know what? You got the ability to fight against your desires. Everybody has that ability. And everybody has that ability to stand up to it. Now, what's the obvious question? What is the obvious question? The obvious question is people will say, the trial I've been given is too hard to bear. Seems like it's impossible to bear. So God put me in a situation I can't handle. Now, doesn't God understand the nature of man? Yes. Didn't God put the soul into a person, right? Into that body? And that's going to be the best way for a person to reach their potential. Yes. Does the person have any control who their siblings are? No. Parents? No. Socioeconomic situation? No. So we believe God put the soul in the body, in the best body in this world right now, even if it's coming back a second time or whatever. It's in the best body to help reach its potential. We're going to say, I've been dealt an unfair hand. It's like playing poker. You have all single cards, right? All single number cards, no matches. So what do? You fold, right? Or you bluff, right? And then someone calls you bluff and you lose, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. You have no kings, queens, aces. You have no matches. You have no pairs. You don't have a flush. You have nothing, right? You are flushed in this case. You have nothing. You have single digit cards. Very good. It's over, right? You're never going to win. You got nothing unless you're very good at bluffing, right? Some people are good at bluffing. Okay. But you have nothing. So you're going to say, I've been given nothing. Less than nothing. All I've been given is heartache. Yeah. Plenty of people say that, right? They've had heartache their whole lives, or part of their lives, or a good part of their lives. Parents, family, other people, they've had it rough. They've had it extremely rough. Okay. Now, in the bigger scheme of things, as a person goes older, we see the bigger picture. If you understand the bigger picture, isn't this the best way for the soul to reach its potential? You're going to say, hell no. What do you mean? Psychologically abused, maybe physically abused, other things they go through. You're going to say it's very hard. True. It's very, very hard. We have no rhyme or reason why these things happen. We don't know. But how does a person react? So you tell me the soul, the psyche of a person is broken. Totally broken from what they've had to go through. You're right. Totally broken. So you're going to say it's not fair. It's not fair. When a person says it's not fair, keep in mind, according to the Torah, what they're saying is God doesn't know what he's doing. Now, doesn't mean it's not hard. Doesn't mean it's not a difficult trial. But what they're saying is God's messed up. God forbid, he made a serious mistake here. Made a serious mistake. Yeah, that is heresy. Absolute heresy. Now, even if God puts the soul in the body, and we understand he's putting the best chance for that person to reach potential being in that body. So if a person suffers severely, they're going to say it's not right. How in the world am I supposed to get out of this, right? A person's going to say, I can't stand up to this. God put me in a situation to fail. Not true. Not true. The Or Chaim HaKadosh here says that people are able to stand up to it. They have the power according to their desires, according to their will, to fight against this whole thing. To fight against desire. They have the power. Now, he doesn't say, oh, it's going to be a walk in the park. Oh, you're going to have it so easy, right? Now, it's different. Let's say we're talking about normal desires that a person may have. We're not talking, what about someone's born, with another disadvantage? They have a chemical imbalance. Let's say, a person is bipolar or a person is schizophrenic. All the Torah in the world can't help that person, right? You're going to need medication. You need therapy for that, right? That's a disadvantage. Okay, but there's help. There is possibility of help. Why the person has to go through it, I don't know. But that's not even the point. So that's a different thing. Because there's another disadvantage. The disadvantage is the chemicals in your body are off. Now, when that happens, it causes other problems. So, I know a number of people with bipolar, on medication. They're on medication for life. They have, a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever. They're in contact with them and they're leading normal lives. Some other things might be more difficult for them, okay? Right? You can have other people, the medication's not right. They suffer. They suffer like no tomorrow. Okay. But even a situation like that, which we're not really talking about, but even in a situation like that, so you would tell me, okay, that's abnormal because there's a problem inside the body. Granted, there's a problem inside the body. Now, does that mean that because of the problem inside the body, it's something the person can't stand up to? God put them in that type of body. You're going to say it's a big test. You're right. Or someone has any other disease. It's a big test. Very good. But he's saying over here, you have the ability to overcome, even if it's hard. That's my language, right? He says you have the ability to stand up to it. Everybody does. Doesn't mean you have to be righteous. We're not talking specifically about righteous people here. He's saying everybody has that ability. It's a nature of a person. There are a few things going on over here. The nature of a person, right? If they're under onus, it's very hard to fight because now it's part of your psyche. Very good. But he says you're able to do it. You're able to stand up to it. You're going to say, but it's very hard. And the more you feed the temptation, the more you feed, let's say better, the more you feed the desire, the harder it is to fight. But you keep doing it over and over and over again. I get this question all the time. God's never going to accept my repentance. I keep doing things over and over again. So what's the answer? First, you got to see, why am I doing it? Why is the person doing what's forbidden? Now, once you understand why you're doing it, what triggers it? That's the second thing. What triggers it? Now, if I understand what triggers it and why you're doing it, now the third thing is you got to figure out a solution how to fix it. You may need outside help for that, maybe not. But you got to work on a solution. But it doesn't mean, let's make very clear, it doesn't mean you're in a situation just to fail. Doesn't mean that. Person can grow up, with the worst parents, the worst siblings, and everything else, you know what, and still be normal. You're going to say that's impossible. It's not impossible. It'll be hard. It'll be very hard. I came to the conclusion as a young adult, I mentioned this before, and it's not ego here. People thought maybe it was. But, in a total world, I looked at the world like this. I looked at the world that either, the whole world is cracked and really messed up, or I have to see how the other side lives. I have to see what Torah is, or, I need to see a shrink, which, I still may need to. Okay. That's kind of a hard thing to say. 19 years old, 20 years old, you're like, the whole world is messed up and you think you're right. They'll say it's ego. Who are you? What have you done in the world? You're a punk. You're 19 years old, 20 years old. You think you got all the answers? You think you know how the world works? This and that. What do you know from anything? Good. No life experience, very little life experience is that. Good. But that bothered me. The thing that bothered me the most, and this is the same thing, is how very intelligent people could act like animals. That bothered me. Now, if I knew Torah, and I learned Musar a little bit, I'd understand why. Right? Until it was made clear to me, things, ideas totally opened up, and then I didn't have any questions. Because if you don't have Torah in your life, it's like being on a boat, being on a sailboat in the middle of the ocean, no motor, and you throw the rudder overboard. What happens when you throw the rudder overboard? The wind takes you wherever you go. You're not in control. So if you don't have Torah, you don't have an anchor, what's controlling you? What morality is controlling you? Nothing. Nothing is controlling you. Whatever my heart tells me to do. Not my brain. Whatever my heart tells me to do. Whatever my desires tell me to do. So that means the vast majority of people, not almost everybody in the world, who don't have Torah in their lives are controlled by their heart. Whatever they feel like doing, whatever the trend is or not. I'm gonna listen or be part of the beat of a different drum. I'm gonna go my own path. I'm gonna do okay, but that's where your heart is taking you. It has nothing to do with morality. It has nothing to do with truth. That's what your heart wants. That's where you feel the best place to be is. Okay. Yeah. And people do all kinds of different things. And they'll think they're right doing this and they're right doing that. But what is controlling them? What's controlling them is not what their mind tells them necessarily, because there's a mind to heart disconnect. The mind might know the right thing to do in general, but then the heart says, I'm not interested. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy life. Yeah. I want to enjoy life. Very good. How are you going to do that? They'll do whatever it takes to enjoy life. Why most people are on drugs? Because they don't enjoy life. They don't know how to enjoy life. They just want life to go away. They just want to be on a perpetual high, and they don't have to deal with life because life is hard. Okay. But how many people out there in general are going according to the right path and not just going according to what their heart says? Now I can say, but an Orthodox Jew also goes according to what his heart says. Not true. Because what our heart tells us doesn't mean that's what the Torah wants. Right? Doesn't mean that. It could in some things. But in general, that's where the mind comes in. That's where Torah comes in. It sets you right, sets you straight. What I'm supposed to do. The heart doesn't want to do the right thing. Not at all. The heart just wants to do whatever it wants to do. So most people are going according to whatever their heart tells them. That's where they're going. That's where they're holding, right? That's where they're holding in the world. So, if that's where they're holding in the world, we're living in a messed up world, right? In a seriously messed up world, right? There's no question. That's just the way it is. And if you're a young adult, you haven't had so much life experience and all that, what would you say? Or let's say better, what would people say? You're out to lunch. They're going to say, oh, you think you're better than most people. You think you got all the answers. You think this, that, and the other thing. But there are things that don't make sense. There are a lot of things that don't make sense. Now, if you understand Torah at a base level, and you understand I have to do whatever I can to attach myself to God, very good. And God tells me how to do it. Manufactured the book himself, passed down to Moses, gave it to us. Okay. So based on all that, what would I say? He knows what he's doing, but I have to tap in. I have to tap in. I have to do what I need to do. Now, doing what I need to do doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy at all. But if I don't tap in, right? Anybody who's not tapping in and trying to go in the right path, according to Torah, right? I don't think about any other so-called religions or anything else. According to Torah, if they're not going or trying to go in the right path, they're not going to end up on the right path. They're going to end up doing things they shouldn't be doing, and their heart's going to take them in a totally different direction. That's what's going to happen. And the vast majority of people out there succumb to whatever their heart tells them, whatever desire tells them, even if it's not rational. It doesn't have to be rational, right? But, that's why people get in trouble. They meet someone of the opposite sex, right? We'll keep this, we'll keep this simple, right? Male, female, right? Two people, and they get involved, and it's not love per se; it's infatuation. There's a big difference between love and infatuation. Love comes after marriage. Infatuation could stay, could not stay. But what's infatuation based on? Not logic. Now you can say love's not based on logic either. Well, it's not true. Right? People quote unquote fall in love. Okay, they can fall out of love also. But what's the love based on? If the love's not based on values, right? If love is not based on values, what's it based on? So you're going to say, but there has to be desire there. True. 100%. Gemara says clear. Male has to be attracted to a female and vice versa. Right? Can't marry for ulterior motives. You have to be attracted. Good. Right? But attraction is not the only thing. Because even though there are going to be times where it's going to be permissible to be together, very good. And what about those times you can't? What about those times, a woman gets a period, whatever, you have to deal with her. Right? Can't be physical. And a person's only physical. What happens, she has a couple kids, her body changes. She doesn't lose all the weight, then what? Can't all be about that. For sure can't all be about that. So all the women are saying, yeah, very true. The guy's like, I don't like this so much, yeah. But if you don't treat a woman like that, what's going to happen? It'll end. Because, that's what's just going to happen. Even for someone younger. It in the secular world happens, sure. Because there's no glue keeping it together. It's based on infatuation. What happens when, you get to real life? Infatuation goes out the window now. There's nothing to base the marriage on. Well, you're going to have to work really hard. Yeah, because it can't just be based on physicality. Eventually, people get older and this and that, right? It's just not going to go, right? Totally not going to go. At the end of the day, a person can be overcome by desire. Now, they can have a lot of things in common, this and that, but the person can be totally wrong for them. Totally wrong for them. But they don't, person quote unquote in love, they don't think straight. Because, they want to be with this person, they're happy with this person, this and that. But really, it's not the right person. It's for sure not the right person. Right? Now, let's say down the line, let's say a person was, felt they were really in love. Let's say the other person broke it off. So they're devastated. They say, no, try and work out this, try and work out that one. No, it's over, finished. The person could have been together for 6 months, for a year, whatever it is. Person devastated. Now, down the line, let's say they meet someone else. Right, which should happen at some point. They meet someone else. When they meet someone else, and that relationship goes in a totally different direction, then they realize, I'm talking in a good way, then they realize this other person never could have been for them. They weren't really holding the same way. And in the future, probably not either. So it was a blessing that, the person got dumped. It's a big blessing. No one wants to hear that, especially when they're down. But, at the end of the day, it's a big blessing. Because they're not going in the same direction, it'll be a disaster later. Be an absolute disaster. So better, it didn't go any further. Right? Again, there could be emotional pain. Yeah. But once the person, if they meet the right person, or they just realize down the line, even if they didn't meet the right person yet, but they see that this person never could have been for them in general. So that's comforting. It's more than comforting. You gotta say, wow, how could I have been so stupid? And what's the old adage? They'll say love is blind. Love blinds a person. Right? So, by us, it shouldn't blind someone. Why shouldn't it blind someone? Because you're not marrying for lust. That's not why you're getting married. Right? You're getting married because, first of all, you are attracted to the other person, that's for sure. Right? But why is the person getting married to someone else? You're getting married to someone else because they share the same values. They want to share the same values. That doesn't mean everything goes the way you think, but that's not the point. That's why love comes later. Right? That's exactly why love comes later, but you have to be going in the same direction. Same values, right? Or similar values. You say opposites attract. Okay. Someone can be more outgoing, someone, more introverted. Okay, it's not a problem. If they disagree on how to raise kids, what they want for their families, that's a bigger problem. That's, having two people that are extroverted, that's probably not good. They probably step on each other, right? So you need someone a little bit less extroverted and whatever. Okay, right? But if they're not going in the same direction, it'll never last. right? It'll absolutely never last. Why not? Because they don't have everlasting values. The values change. And this can happen sometimes. A person gets married, they have the same values, and the other person changes. Right? Let's say, other person, became more religious. Happens all the time. That someone, all of a sudden, decides Christianity's not for them. They see the truth and now they want to convert. The other spouse is like, I ain't interested. I don't want to go in that path. I don't want to do this. Right? Right? So, end of the day, what happens? End of the day, what happens won't last. But if they have same values, or similar values, again, it doesn't mean it can't necessarily change. Life takes a lot of different turns that we would never think of. But even so, I would say, even if that's the case, then, is the marriage going to stick or not? These are obviously complex things because people sometimes go in different directions. I'm not even talking about where, someone decides, they're not a guy anymore, or they want to change, or, whatever. I mean, cases like that happen also, right? But I'm saying it's in the Orthodox world, it's much fewer, right? No question. I'm not saying anything can't happen. Plenty of things, life takes funny twists, but if the values are the same, right? If the values are the same, then basically, no matter what happens, as long as there's open communication, there's nothing that should break that bond. I mean nothing. Nothing should break that bond. Doesn't mean it's easy, right? Definitely does not mean it's easy. But there are things that you can't take things for granted either. Meaning that a person married, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, you can't take a spouse for granted. And it's something that has to be worked on. You got to find time. You got to have open communication. You don't speak about your kids or whatever. Like, it has to be like, before you had kids. And how you communicated, what you did together, this and that. Sometimes you have to rekindle that. Yeah, it takes work. It's effort. I once spoke at a Shever festive party that the person gets married, so wanted me to speak, and so I spoke, and one of the things I said, is that getting married, it's like a flower, right? What happens, if you have flowers, you don't water them, they die, right? You can try this experiment at home, right? Your flowers will die, right? That's botany 101, right? 101 or 101A, very good. Yeah. So I said, this is something you have to work on. It's something that needs constant work. Even the best of marriages, if you don't work on it, it just fizzles, could fizzle, right? Definitely could fizzle. So people say, oh, wow, like, such a unique approach. I think that there's humor in me, but like, but that's true. That is very true. I'm not saying because I said it. It's, it happens to be a true thing. It has to be worked at. Now, even in the best of marriages, it can be strains, all kinds of things. Kids, financially, other things. There are all kinds of things we don't expect, right? We always say when you least expect it. Yeah, we don't expect. It doesn't matter, right? It's this is something you got to work on, right? And today, marriage is in danger. Most marriages end up in divorce, so it's probably better not to be married, right? Definitely better, probably not to be married, not to be one of those statistics. But it takes work. It takes a lot of work, right? Especially in a religious house, there's a lot to do. Well, a lot of expenses, coming, this coming week you got Purim, right? And Purim comes on Friday for everybody, right? For everybody. It's just in Jerusalem, they're not making their festive meal till Sunday. Okay, so they have it easier, right? So they have to give out shachmanos, they have to give, special food gifts, they have to give out matanos avyonim, charity, whatever. And that's it. They're done. They prepare for Shabbos afterwards. And that's it. And they're done. They have their meal. They have their meal on Sunday. Right? Now, everybody else in the world, outside of a city that was walled at the time of Yeshua ben Nun, in the time of Joshua, everybody else is holding on Friday. That means Thursday is fast of Esther, right? Friday, you have, so Thursday night you have to hear the Book of Esther, right? Friday day, right? Friday morning, really, you should hear Book of Esther a second time. Men and women both same obligation. You got to give matanos levyonim. You have to give money to the poor. You have to give out shalchmanos. You have to give these special food gifts. But there's another added thing here. You got to have your meal, right? Everyone, outside Jerusalem has to have their meal. Now, what's the problem? What's the obvious problem? The problem is, what about Shabbos? You got to prepare for Shabbos also. Now, there are some that hold, if you go so late, you can just, take off the tablecloth, put on another tablecloth, you make kiddush. But if you already drank wine, so you don't make the blessing, you don't have to wash over bread because you already ate bread. But most people are not going to do that. Most people are not going to do that. But you have to eat early, right? You have to stop eating really, let's say, probably by 3:00, give or take, because you have to, you have to go into Shabbos with with a nice appetite. You can't go in, you can't go in starving. You're right. We don't go in fasting. There's only one day you fast on Friday, and that's the 10th of Tavis, right? This year we had that, or last year we had that. I think it was this year also. That's the 10th of Tavis you fast on Friday. It's the only fast that comes out on Friday, right? Yom Kippur usually comes out Friday, can come out Friday night, but there's no other fast that comes out on Friday, right? So on the 10th of Tavis you fast, right? Which is even if it's on a Friday. And you break the fast, you eat meat, right? You have chicken, whatever. Or if you don't want to eat chicken, eat fish, something. Whatever, you break the fast after Shabbos comes in. Yeah, but it's the only fast day. It's the only fast day. So the reason is it's because the prophet said you're going to fast on that day. Now, what does it mean on that day? Literally, right? The Karaites all be happy. Literally, you got to fast on that day. What does on that day mean? Exactly that. So you have to fast on Friday, sun up to sundown. Very good, right? And also kind of hard, right? Sitting there, preparing for Shabbos, this and that, and you're not eating, right? So why do I mention this? Because this is the hard thing. You got to prepare for Shabbos and the poor meal at the same time, right? So many people will say, whatever you make for the poor meal, make double, freeze it, and then heat it up before Shabbos. You do that, or make the Shabbos meal on Thursday, even on the fast day. You make your Shabbos meal then, right? And either freeze it or put it in the fridge, and then all you have to do is heat it up. But why do I mention this? I mention it because you got to prepare, right? Comes Purim, everyone's holding the same way, just about. Unless you live in Jerusalem or a walled city in the time of Yeshua ben Nun. Very good. Yeah. So everyone has to be ready before Shabbos. So how are you going to be ready before Shabbos if you don't prepare? How's that going to be? Right? How in the world is that going to be? So you got to prepare. Bottom line, you got to be ready. So some people will make everything on Thursday. You're not going to make it on Friday. There's too many things going on. It's a crazy day, right? Unless you're able to do it, early in the morning, prepare Shabbos food or whatever, and then get everything else done. That's possible. Most people would say if you have kids or whatever, it's too hard. Either make it on Thursday, freeze it, or make it Thursday night after the fast, after you hear the Book of Esther, right? You ate something or whatever, you have a meal, and then you make it, right? And then you put it in the fridge or freeze it or whatever, right? But what's the bottom line? You got to get it done, right? You have to get it done. So it doesn't matter. It's something you have to do. Right? All right, let me take a few questions there. Someone asked, it's not really a fair question. And you'll see why it's not a fair question. The question is, what are the core mitzvahs that we need to keep? Why do I say it's not a fair question? That's like saying, someone came to Hillel, Gemara says, right? A convert came to Hillel and says, teach me the whole Torah 1 foot. Sorry, let's backtrack. They went to Shammai first. They said, teach me the entire Torah in 1 foot. Shammai, what did Shammai say? What are you, a wise guy? Like, yeah, I'm going to teach the Torah in 1 foot. He threw him out. He didn't even give an answer. He's like, why are you wasting my time? Threw him out. Totally threw him out. He went to Hillel. Now, Hillel was known to have tremendous amount of patience. Yeah. So he came to Hillel and said, teach me the Torah on 1 foot. Right? I understand where the question's coming from. Yeah, I'm not gonna, overanalyze what the Gemara here says, but think about it. Think about it. Someone comes in, to a top rabbi, whatever, says, I want you to teach me the entire Torah on 1 foot. Now, is that a fair question? Literally, is that a fair question? It's not a fair question. It's an obnoxious question. What do I say it's obnoxious? That's why Shammai threw him out. Exactly why Shammai threw him out. What are you asking? What are you asking? I'm going to teach the Torah on 1 foot? You think I can tell, I give you a one-line answer. One-line answer, yeah? Hill said no. What did Hill answer? Don't do others, what you wouldn't do unto yourself. Love everybody. That was his answer. And he said the rest is interpretation. Okay. I'm not going to give that answer. Yeah? You have to know everything. That's it. You want to know what the core things are? Shabbos, kashrus, prayer, blessings. That's what the core things are. You have to know everything. Right? So what are the cliff notes so I can pass the test? There are no cliff notes. There are no cliff notes. Let me repeat that. There are no cliff notes. You're in it for the long haul. So what do you have to keep? You have to keep whatever the Torah tells you to keep. That's it. That's a simple explanation. I'm not going into any sermons, any exegesis. That's a simple explanation. I could say be nice to everybody. Yeah, that's not going to help you in conversion. Go in front of a beis din and they ask you all kinds of questions. Why don't you just ask me be nice to everyone? I'm nice to everyone. What's the problem? So why don't you convert me? They're going to say, but you don't know anything about Shabbos or kashrus or blessings. Why should I convert you? Yeah. The core things to do are exactly what we're supposed to do at all times. You got to know the laws of Shabbos. You got to know the laws of blessings. You got to know how to pray. Yeah. These are things you need to know. Right? You need to, should learn Musar. You need to learn, you have to have emunah. Right? There are many things you have to know. But you're not going to get a one-line answer. Right? That's certainly not my job. I'm not going to give you a one-line answer. You have to know everything. Right? You have to come in front of beis din and be able to answer what they ask. They're not going to ask you one thing. Not if they, not if the beis din has any worth in it. They're going to ask you some things about Shabbos. They're going to ask you some things about kashrus. They're going to ask you some things about blessings. They're going to ask you across the board. I'm going to ask you one thing. I mean, if they do, they're not a real beis din. Right? They want to see you have a working knowledge. So what's the core? Everything. That's the answer. Devotion is stronger than love. Devotion is important. Yeah. That for sure I would agree. But the point is that love comes after marriage, and love is not infatuation. Right? Now, people, in the secular world, and non-Jews to boot will probably say the same thing. Like, how are you going to know if you love the person unless you live together? Now, living together, right? Let's look at the statistics. Living together and then a person gets married, usually the rates are higher divorce. Now, a person lived with someone for many, many years, and then they get married, what changed? The only change is a piece of paper. Now, what the piece of paper tell you? If anything happens, you're obligated. You're on the hook now. Right? We're not holding by common law marriage, even though some places in the States, they have common law marriage. Right? That's what we call no-hide marriage. No-hide marriage means between non-Jews you live together. That's it. You don't have to go through a justice of peace. You don't have to have a formal marriage. You're married. According to Torah, you're married. Now, once the person walks away, that's divorce. You don't have to go through proper divorce, right? Unless, certain things, you want to get from the other person or from the state or whatever. But there was a case many years ago. Many, many years ago. There was a case, famous actor William Hurt, anyone who remembers? Right? He was living with someone, had a few kids, and they walked away. She claimed half his money. It's like, I'm not giving you half my money. Common law marriage. She wanted to claim common law marriage. Now, the question was, if she was in a state that holds by common law marriage. Not every state holds by common law marriage. Now, if she was a no-hide, now let's say they were keeping the no-hide laws. So he has to pay. He should pay if he walks away. So that's like getting divorced. Very good. Right? So that's what common law marriage is. But not every state holds by common law marriage. Different states hold different things. I think in the end, she got something, but she didn't get half. She definitely didn't, if I remember correctly, she didn't get, she didn't get half. But that's what destroys. That's what destroys. What does the person have to live together for? Right? What do they have to live together for? What, you got, see how a person squeezes the bottom of the toothpaste and see what they do, in other ways? You can say so. A person will learn, whatever they need to learn, beforehand, whatever it is. It's not, it's not going to make or break things. I mean, whatever. It's kind of awkward, certain things, but okay. Right? It doesn't matter. Right? The point is love will come afterwards. Right? And let's say 90 to 95% of all Orthodox marriages stick. Not because divorce is taboo. Plenty of people getting divorced today, unfortunately. Right? It's not because divorce is taboo. Divorce is on the hook, meaning Torah says persons, if they can't stay married, they get divorced. Right? Some people can't be married. You try and do whatever you can to work it out, but if you can't work it out, you can't work it out. Right? So that's it. But it's not like, people are never supposed to get divorced. Not true. There are people, you have to get divorced. Is that what God wants? Does he want you to get divorced? No. But if you have to get divorced, you have to get divorced. It's on the books. Definitely on the books. Now, so we could go a little bit deeper and say, okay, if this person is supposed to be your beshert, this is the person you're supposed to be married to, you're half the soul. Now you're marrying the other half of the soul. Let's say you married the right person. Let's say 100% you married the right person. Now you're a complete soul. Very good. Does that mean a person won't get divorced? They married the right person. They had however many kids they had. Okay. Does that mean they're not going to get divorced? Who says? You can say, but that's the person supposed to be married to. Good. Well, let's say they didn't work on it. Well, let's say one of the spouses did other things and the person can't live with them. They can't stand them. So why did God put them together? He put them together for whatever reason. I don't know. Can't answer. He put them together. Okay. Now, didn't God know they're probably going to, break apart? Yeah, he probably knew that. Yeah, let's say better. He knew that. That doesn't negate the fact we messed it up. If a person married the right person, let's say, they married the right person and they screw it up. They messed it up. There's no turning back. Not God's fault. You messed something up. I'm not even talking about we married the wrong person. A Jew marries a non-Jew, let's say. That messes everything up. Because that's not half your soul. If the other spouse converts, good. Yeah. The non-Jewish spouse doesn't have to convert. But so if they convert, they have kids, good. If they don't convert, what happens? What about the other half of the soul? What happened to the other half of the soul? The other half of the soul, now God has to, play the matrix. Right? That's only one person went to marry. And what about all those kids supposed to be born? What the matter? They were going to have 2 kids. So what? Where do those souls go now? What happens? Yeah, that's why I read this book. I should say not the book, the introduction. Right? Ravari Kaplan has a book. Ravari Kaplan, bless his memory, he's got a book called Made in Heaven. I didn't make it past the introduction. Yeah, because this event, doesn't just affect you, it affects your spouse, affects your kids, affects your grandkids, right? This decision, I'm like, who, me? Shut the book. Yeah, it's intense. That decision, is a huge effect. Has a huge effect. And if you marry the wrong person, let's say a person intermarry, it's very simple. They intermarry. Intermarriage rates are over 60%, 50, 60, 70%, some places higher. So imagine, let's say 70%, let's say, in some places. That means 7 out of 10 don't marry the right person. That means all their half souls are missing, or they're all messed up. And all the kids, those souls that were supposed to come out, are all messed up now. So the Gemara says, God has to allow all the souls to be put into humans. That's when the Messiah can come, when all the souls are gone. When all the souls that are supposed to be here come out from underneath the Kisei Kavod, God's heavenly throne, that's when the Messiah can come. So what do you do about so many abortions? That's a problem. That throws a wrench over here. Or they marry the wrong person. So what happened to all those souls? What happened to all those souls God has to put in? Now he's going to find them and, redirect them somehow. That's the matrix. That's why, if one person does it, that's hard enough. Imagine if 6 or 7 out of 10 do that on a regular basis. What happened to all those souls get lost? seemingly get lost. Obviously, God knows how to track them. But you need like unbelievably high powered, supercomputers to figure all this out. Because imagine someone's supposed to have 5, 6 kids and they intermarried. So those 5, 6 souls messed up. That other soul, that half of that soul also messed up. Right? So you're talking, the person married the wrong person, let's say, they marry a non-Jew. Yeah, a Jew marries a non-Jew. It's not the non-Jew's fault. Right? But a Jew marries a non-Jew. What happens? That's a serious problem. For this, it's a serious problem. Because let's say they're going to have even 3 kids, or 2 kids. Where are those souls now? Where's that half a soul that you were supposed to marry? You messed it up. So where does it go? I don't know. God works it out, fit it up with another soul. But that's the matrix. It's like the numbers are like the sheer numbers are just unbelievable. I'm not even talking high numbers here. Right? I'm only talking a few people did it. Imagine if what the numbers say, let's say 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10, it's thousands of souls messed up. Messed up by one action. Totally messed up. Someone who says Adam still stayed with Chava, for example. All right. Yeah, they're separated for 130 years. 130 years they're separated. But again, if they bring a proof from them, right? But, in general, some people, will stick it out because of their kids. But, when the kids see it, they get messed up in the process. They're the only people that win, in divorces, are lawyers. But you have to get divorced. The person has to get divorced. I'm not saying they shouldn't get divorced. Right? But the point is that, yeah, it's important. It's important. You want to, keep the family structure together. But if the 2 spouses are like at each other's throats and they do, and the kids see it, it's, there's no point to stay together. There is no point, because that's going to mess up the kids more. They're going to be traumatized, right? No question. If they're able to work it out, very good. If not, there's no way to work it out. You don't be a martyr for it. For the sake of the kids, you should get divorced. Kids will need therapy probably and need help and whatever. Okay. Somebody asked, one night stands allowed during conversion, provided the partners are single. Good question. We're going to see, there's a whole list. The Rambam says in the Laws of Kings, the whole list of forbidden relationships for non-Jews, right? That comes out of the category of immorality. Now, if it's something that it's not forbidden for them to be with, yeah. If it's a permissible relationship, they're allowed to. So a one-night stand should be okay if it's a permissible relation. If it's a forbidden relationship, even a one-night stand would be forbidden, right? But if it's permissible, it should be okay. Now, there's only one caveat. The one caveat is, should a person do it? Is it good for a person to do it? They say, well, wasting seed is worse. Okay, that's true, right? Even for non-Jews, very strong case to say by non-Jews. And we're not going to go into it, but it's a very strong case, say, for non-Jews forbidden. Yes. Very, very strong case. Now, it's better to do that or with a one-night stand. The person had a one-night stand, let's say, and it was permissible. The person they're with is permissible to be with, so that wouldn't be forbidden. That would not be forbidden. Now, the only thing is that something someone should do? That's a different issue. So that, Kaufman would say, is a moral imperative. Yeah. Person hooks up. They what's the word? They hook up, right? I guess that's, I don't know if they still use that language or not. They hook up one night. He's drinking, she's drinking, whatever. Next thing you know, no one's got any clothes on. Yeah, it can happen, right? It can happen. Now, is that forbidden? That's the question. Is that forbidden for a non-Jew? So technically, if they're permitted to be together, if there's no forbiddenness over here, forbidden relationship, then they could. Then for sure they could. That's not considered wasting seed. Now, even if that's the case, the only thing I would say is that a good thing to do? That's a different issue. That, I would say, would come under Kaufman's category of moral imperative. As a moral imperative, I would say no. But is there anything really wrong with it if they're permitted to each other? No. No. That's what I would say. You know, it's not just for the guy, it's for the woman also. So it's not like, she's totally innocent here either. Right? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter either way. Either way, they both overcome for desire. What's the problem? Technically speaking, is there a problem for non-Jew? You say you shouldn't do it. Shouldn't have sex before marriage. Okay. Yeah. Is there an obligation not to? Does it come under the Noahide laws? The answer is no. Why doesn't it? Because if it's not a forbidden relationship, they could. There's nothing stopping them. They for sure could. And even if they don't want to have kids, fine. Not a problem. Not interested in having a child. That's also fine. Even better. Right? But if they have a child, they have a child. It's not a forbidden relationship. If it's a forbidden relationship, that's penalty. A different issue. There are specific people non-Jews can't be with. Period. They can't be with. Right? So if it's a permitted relationship, no one in the right mind would say no. What's the problem? You'll say it's a moral issue. It's a moral issue. Right? It's a moral issue. So what do? So you can say, if it's a moral issue, then the question is that's the only question. If it's not a forbidden relationship, what's the problem? Two consenting adults. What's the problem? They each want to have a good time. Is that forbidden? But it's not going to nurture into a relationship. Let's say it doesn't. Let's say they both know what they're doing. 100%. That's what they want. Okay. What's the problem? Two consenting adults. If you say, one get abused and this and that, that's a different issue. But two consenting adults, what's the problem? Right? You say it's a moral issue. Yeah. But again, we're looking at it from a Torah perspective. From a Torah perspective, again, I'm talking about non-Jews here. From a Torah perspective, there shouldn't be a problem. If it's not a forbidden relationship. If it's a forbidden relationship, yeah, then everyone knows you can't do it. Right? There wouldn't be, and you get that penalty. Right? Person would get that penalty for it. But if it's permitted, the only thing I would say is that a good thing? Is that morally a good thing? That's the only question. That's the only question. So it comes under the same thing, premarital sex. Let's say, two people are going to get married. Let's say, they plan to get married. So, they have sex before they're married. Is that a problem? For non-Jews. Is that a problem? I'd say, why not? Why not? Someone say, you're prude if you don't. You want to say like a bunch of animals. Okay. It's a natural desire. It's a natural desire. Now, if they're doing it only just to to have pleasure in that, okay, you're right. They're like animals. Good. That's not the question, though. Right? The question is, are they allowed to? Yeah, two consenting adults. Why should they hold back? Why should they wait till, they think they're going to get married, they will get married. Why should they hold back? That's what they're going to answer. It's a moral issue. It's not a halachic issue. It's a moral issue. But if that's what both they want, however many times it's done, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's not a problem. Right? That's not a problem. Right? They're responsible. That's what we're talking about. That's the whole case here. People giving in to desires. But even if they give into it, it's the strongest desire. Let's say, they've been together for years. They know they're going to get married, right? They know it's just a matter of time when they're going to get married. They should wait. I'm talking about the secular world. How is the secular world going to react? Of course not. We're going to tell them to wait. Not at all. We're going to tell them to wait. You're going to say, well, can't go by the secular world. People are a bunch of animals. You're right. I'm not denying that. I'm talking about the pulse of where people are holding. Yeah? You know, someone said, on this topic, someone told me that, yeah, the woman came out and said, listen, we are basically animals. We're animals. So I said, great, someone admitted it. Not just, I have this desire to consenting adults. No, they said exactly what you said. We are animals and we have certain desires, right? They didn't say they should claim up the desires. They didn't say we should live in Victorian England. They said you give in however much you give in. Yeah, not saying that. Yeah, what do I care what the Christians think? We don't care what the Christians think. They think it's all bad anyway, right? They think it's all evil and bad anyway. Okay, but if it's done in the right way and it's harnessed in the right way, what's the problem? According to Torah, I don't care about the Christians. According to Torah, is there a problem? Two consenting adults. They're going to get married anyway. So why not? Why do they have to wait till they're married? Say, no, it's going to be special. Whatever. Okay, I get it. I don't think the guy will be too happy about it, right? I get it. And some people will be like that. There will be some people that'll hold out to the married. Okay. I'm telling you, close to most people, they are not going to wait. They won't wait. I think it's pretty simple. Now, the question is, if you're looking at it from a Torah perspective, is that forbidden? Is that forbidden for non-Jews? The answer is no. Would I tell people to do it? No. I wouldn't tell people to do it. It's a moral imperative. It's not forbidden. That's the point. It's not forbidden. They should control themselves. You're right. So that's why, in the Orthodox community, someone gets engaged, they get married 2 months later, 3 months later, usually, depending on the time of the year. They don't wait. They don't wait. Yeah. Try and do it as quick as possible. And not only that, the interaction between both of them is minimal during that time. For that reason, because the desire is so strong. Now they're committed to each other, very good. Okay, so you gotta wait though. So good, you keep them busy. You're planning the wedding, other things, but you make it quick. That's exactly why you make it quick. But in the secular world, you don't have that. It's not even close to that. So the question is that bad? Let's say better. Is that forbidden? It's not forbidden. It's not forbidden. Yeah, but Hashem put us in the world whether anyone does or not. Okay, so what? That's true. I'm talking about in God's eyes. For two non-Jews, two consenting adults. Consenting adults. Yeah? They're both in agreement. What's the problem? You'll say it's not right. So you're old-fashioned. Okay. So you're older. Good. Back in the day would never be done. Good. Today's a different door, different generation. Very, very different generation today. But again, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about whether according to the Torah it's permitted or not. And that's all we care about. Does God want you to do it? Why not? Why not say you should control yourself? He's not telling you that. He's not telling you that. As a moral imperative, I would say, yeah, it's probably better not to. Probably better not to. Probably get married quicker. Okay. But does it fall under the Noahide laws where you're going to get death penalty for immorality? Absolutely not. That's the point. That's exactly the point. Yeah. And people have no problem, that's why I say old-fashioned, because people have no problem today saying that if people live together or they have premarital sex, I won't have any problem with it if they're in the process of getting married. Yeah? And even if not, they're two consenting adults. So what's the problem? Then we grew up back in the day, we shouldn't do it, you should do it before you get married, should get married first. Good. 100%. Most people are not going to think that way. Not at all. If this one, they agree, both agree, they're going to get married or whatever. No, no one's lying over here. Yeah? So why shouldn't they? You can say, oh, but it's so much more special, when they get married. Okay. I'm not arguing that. That's true. That's 100% true. But I would only say it's a moral imperative. That's it. It's nothing more than a moral imperative. Yeah. I think there are other things that take away from it. Yeah. 100%. Not everyone's going to agree. Guaranteed in the secular world, they'll say you're crazy. If they want to do it, it's their choice. Right? If that's going to enhance the relationship, what's the problem? You want to try out the person anyway. Like, you want to see, what they're like. Like, it's going to make a difference. Whatever it is, right? We'll keep this clean. But again, as a moral imperative, that's all it is. Right? I would argue other things that's not good. It's not good for the relationship. Definitely not good for the relationship. Gets in the way. Physicality definitely gets in the way. Go back and watch the movie When Harry Met Sally, right? Back in the 80s. You can't have a friendship with a person of the opposite sex because that physicality gets in the way. It just gets in the way. It's a guy talking. It gets in the way. It skews the relationship. If it's not based on that, and it's based on other things, you get a much stronger, relationship. But that can get carried away. 100% that can get carried away. A person's only in it for physicality. Then what happens when they get married? They have to deal with the person, even when they can't be physical, or they don't want to be physical. Well, not an easy thing. Not an easy thing. So yeah, it's better not to be physical when dating. Does not Jew have an obligation in that? No. They certainly don't have an obligation. Jews have that obligation. But that's why marriage is going to stick more, right? Because they're not in it necessary for that. That's part of it. It's a good part of it, okay. But you got to deal with the other person. So you got to deal with issues. You got to deal with the person themselves, not just about physicality. Because when you can't be physical, what do you do? What are you going to do? I'm not going to talk to you for 2 weeks. When you get out of your bad mood, we'll talk. Like, you have to deal with them. 100% you have to deal with them. So yeah, it's better not to, for sure. For a number of different reasons. But doesn't make it forbidden. Definitely doesn't make it forbidden. Right? Doesn't mean they're going to get death penalty for it. It could hinder in other ways. It gets in the way. It gets in the way. It's the bottom line. Right? Yeah, I'll give an example. We did a study. There's a number of studies on this. Kids in school in mixed classes, boys and girls. Yeah. Scholastically, they do better when they're separate. What's the reason? What do you think the reason is? Because they're too busy thinking about other people. And who's gonna, be with somebody or not be with somebody and this and that. They get, it takes away from learning. Right? If they don't have that focus, they're totally separate. What do they focus on? What they're learning. That makes sense. That makes sense. So their says consequences get you a disease and get pregnant. Okay. I'm saying, but people are careful. Let's say people are careful. They don't have that problem. I'm not talking about that. They don't have that problem. Yeah. All things being equal, they don't have any of these issues. Question is, should they do it? If I can bring a number of arguments why they shouldn't. Right? Because it ruins a relationship. In many ways. Not just, you should save it for the other person. This and no. Physicality ruins relationships. Because then you only see it for what I can get from the other person. Right? And you're not in it for the right reason, per se. That's part of it, but that's that might be the main part. So that's a problem. That will be a problem in the relationship, potentially. Right? But again, according to Torah, would it really be forbidden in this case? No. It wouldn't be forbidden. Right? But it brings on other problems. Wrong brings on a lot of problems that you say you shouldn't do it. Right? But again, someone can be married for, 30, 40 years. They did it before. Okay. It enhanced, it helped, whatever. Very good. It didn't hurt anything. There are people that get burned by it. Yeah. That I hear. That's certainly for the woman, no question. But she can convince herself, oh, this is what I want, and it's good for me, and it's this, and it's that. She doesn't want to lose, to lose the guy, whatever. Yeah. Right. But again, according to Torah, is it permitted? Right? You can give me all the moral reasons. I would agree. Right? And I would tell people not to do it because of what it leads to. What it potentially can lead to. Right? So if that's the case, I would tell people not to do it. Can't force them. Right? They're overcome by desire. What do? So they say go take a cold shower, take a few cold showers, this, that, fight against until whatever. They're not obligated to. But it causes other problems. It definitely causes other problems. That's why in the Orthodox world, they're separate. Men and women are separate across the board until they need to meet each other to get married. And they should be separate. Because things can happen. Easily could happen. Yeah. But again, in those cases, even when they're dating, there's no physicality. Physicality comes afterward. Love will come afterwards. Right? But you got to be attracted to the other person. So for a Jew and a non-Jew, it's totally different. Totally different. But physicality, if you watch the movie When Harry Met Sally, physicality always gets in the way. Right? You can never be, the whole point was you can never be friends with someone of the opposite sex. Can't believe I'm quoting this. I've been quoted a number of times. Yeah. It's true. Because someone wants more than the other. So there are no platonic relationships. Right? But if you're telling me two consenting adults, and they're going to get married anyway, make it easy, right? No one's getting pregnant, no venereal disease, or none of these other things, right? Let's say, what's the problem? I'm being ultra reasonable as a fanatic. Yeah, as being ultra reasonable. There shouldn't be an issue. It will cause other problems, I think, and I wouldn't tell people to do it. But according to the Torah, it's not forbidden, right? So you're going to say it could be forbidden relation. If it's a forbidden relationship, they get the death penalty. Let's make that clear. They absolutely get the death penalty. It's the forbidden relationship. I'm not talking about a forbidden relationship. I'm talking about a relationship that's not forbidden. So if it's permissible, what's the problem? So you're going to say, doesn't morality line up with Torah? It does. We're talking about non-Jews here. We're not talking about Jews. For Jews, 100% forbidden. 100% forbidden. Yeah? A Jew cannot cross that line. It's forbidden. 100%. Yeah? A person kisses somebody they're not allowed to kiss, right? You're allowed to kiss, mother, father, child, or parent. That's it. No cousins, no aunts, no hugs, no fist bumps, nothing. You have to give up your life before you do it. Even if they're a washed up, dried out prune and they're 85 years old, right? And you have a great aunt still alive or in their 90s, you cannot give them a hug. It's forbidden, right? Right? You gotta think what's gonna happen. The person's a dried up prune. Doesn't matter. It's forbidden. Gotta give up your life rather than do it. For a non-Jew, does that apply? Doesn't apply. Will not apply. So you're gonna say morality's in the Torah. Of course it's in the Torah. Does this apply to non-Jews? That's the question. That is the question. So you're gonna say, but it's a moral issue. You're right. I agree it's a moral issue. I wouldn't tell people to do it for a lot of reasons. But you want to pin me down and say, is it forbidden according to the Torah? The answer is no. It's not forbidden. It raises other problems. That's true. But why are we going to put a non-Jew to that standard? We're not going to put a non-Jew to that standard. Yeah. We're going to say, fine, you want to do it? Live together, get married, get married. No, who's going to say that's rational according to the Torah? You got two consenting adults. What's the problem? There is morality, but this morality doesn't apply to non-Jews. Again, I can tell you why it should, in general, but it doesn't. It's a moral imperative. Is it an important moral imperative? I would think so, yes. 100%. I think it's a moral imperative. But they're not going to get killed for it. They're definitely not going to get killed for it. It's a good thing to do, based on how a relationship works. That is the whole point. Based on how the relationship works, right? I would never tell people to do it. I would tell them to get married. You want to get married, get married. You want to fool around, don't do it. It's going to bring other problems. It skews a lot of issues. A lot of issues. When you're involved physically, you lose sense of reality. That's what happens. It takes you away from the proper relationship itself. You could say it enhances it, okay. Yeah, but then where does the focus go? Does it go in having great conversations and this and that, or does it go to that? Where's 90% of the focus going to be in physicality? So that's why I would tell someone not to do it. But again, someone's going to say, are you allowed to? They're allowed to. They're going to get death penalty? Nope, not at all. Not at all, unless they're with somebody that's forbidden. Right? So yeah, should they hold themselves to a higher standard? If they want to. I think it's beneficial. Definitely beneficial. Because they can harness it in the right way. Can have a proper relationship. They don't want to wait, okay. Right? They'll pay a certain price. I would agree. Not getting punished by God here. In a relationship, they'll pay the price. Right? Is the price worth it to be paid? Can't answer. Depends on the person. Right? Doesn't say it's doesn't say forbidden. But it's I would say it's bad for the relationship. Right? That's the most you can say. You can say, well, what about high level morality? If it's a forbidden relationship, you're right. They can't do it. If it's not a forbidden relationship, again, we'll say the same thing. Sound like a broken record. What's the problem? There will be problems, I agree. But if they want to do it, fine. Right, which goes to show, by the way, that, if it's, God gave a very, very strong desire. But that strong desire has to be utilized in the right way. It has to be used in the right way. Can it be abused? Yes. But the reason you have family purity laws is exactly that. It's exactly that. There's a separation. Because there's a separation. When the wife goes to the mikveh and comes back, it's like a second honeymoon. That's the way it should be looked at. You have to interact other ways than being physical. Right? So on a Torah level for Jews, sure. That's what keeps a marriage fresh. At the same time, non-Jew doesn't have that obligation. Right? It doesn't even apply to them. Right? Because that's not normal. That's not normal. That's not universal. The laws of family purity laws do not apply to non-Jews. There's no reason why it should. Because that's not rational. You'll say it makes sense and this and that, but go ask a secular Jew or a non-Jew, which we don't necessarily care, but go ask them and say, like, you ready to sign up for this? This will really enhance your marriage and this and that. The wife will be gung-ho. The guy's like, I don't want anything to do with it. Yeah. And she may not want to do it either. Whatever. Yeah. But it doesn't apply to them. That's not rational according to the Torah. That's something that seemingly irrational. They're going to say, oh, but it makes sense. And yeah, it does to a certain extent. Right? But it's not universal according to the Torah. That only applies to Jews. So again, is that a good reason why Jewish marriages stick together? Yes. It's a good reason. Right? And that's obvious because you can't look at your spouse as an object. Definitely can't. So you have to deal with them in a proper way. And you have more of a deeper connection. Sure. That's the way it should work. Listen, not everything goes that way, but that's the way it should work. Now, if that's true, then that'll definitely enhance the marriage. So there are people that would say, yeah, it sounds like a great idea, let's do it. But again, universally, non-Jews have to keep what's universal according to the Torah. Very good. They have to keep what's universal according to the Torah. That's not universal. No one's going to say that's universal. It could enhance, very good. Yeah, but I don't know, so many people are going to want to do it, right? At the level that they should, but certainly non-Jews have no obligation. Somebody mentioned the morale has been one of the biggest downfalls of humanity, right? 100%. Total, what destroyed the Roman Empire? Decadence. What destroys all empires? Same thing. Decadence. Immorality. Yeah. Immorality, stealing, idolatry, all these things. But immorality, is a big part of worship for non-Jews. Huge part. No question. We're going to see if I get there one day, right? We're going to see. We're going to see later in this chapter for sure, right? But again, do we have to hold a higher standard of immorality for non-Jews? That's the question. That is, that's the question. And that's not. Some ways it makes sense, in a universal way. But it's, at the end of the day, it's not. Right? The non-Jews for the Noahide laws are only going to keep things that are universal according to the Torah. What about speaking Lashon Hara? Mentioned that many times. What about speaking badly against others? So you're going to say, people would say, well, it's not a good thing to do. And other people say, no, they deserve it, this, that. Doesn't apply to them. Why doesn't it apply? Because if I know something's true, I can't repeat it for no reason. There are certain conditions I have to fulfill. And if you fulfill the conditions, Chofetz Chaim says, don't do it. Right? But you ask anybody, secular Jew or non-Jew, they'll say, of course. If I know it to be true, I cannot repeat it. So I would say it's a moral imperative. It's not good to speak about others, backstab other people. Make yourself look good at the expense of someone else. That's bad. It shouldn't be done. Is a non-Jew obligated in it? No. They're not obligated. But isn't it good not to speak badly against others? Sure. Isn't it a severe prohibition for Jews? Yes, but who says it applies to non-Jews? But don't they have to learn how to speak, to others and about others? Yes, they do. It should be common sense. People don't have common sense today. Okay, it doesn't apply to them. And the reason it doesn't apply because there's certain things that are not universal according to this. But everyone would agree, or I shouldn't say everyone, some people would agree speaking badly and bad-mouthing other people is not a good thing. Not everyone's going to agree to that. Guaranteed, not everyone's going to agree to that. They're going to say the other person has it coming, and I have a right to say it, and it really doesn't matter, and I would say it to their face. So what? Yeah. Not universal for them. Definitely not universal. Right? Here someone says, Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 6, observe them faithfully for they are proof of your wisdom. Discernment to other peoples. Surely that great nation of the wise and discerning people, that's if they're keeping the Torah the way they should. But, but again, certain things, who says that applies to non-Jews? We're not saying it applies to non-Jews. We're not saying it applies to non-Jews. So don't we realize we observe more than you? We observe, yes. Jews observe more than a universal. Universal laws. The universal laws are only for non-Jews, right? I would say there are probably, they're more than 7. They're probably like 50 to 60 altogether that I would say are, and there are plenty of others that are moral imperatives. But Jews are not obligated only to keep universal laws. We got 80% of the Torah, I go through a whole laundry list of things that you're going to look at face value and say, this makes no sense. I've wool and linen, I can't wear it together. I have to have it checked to make sure there's no, person got let's say a wool suit. So in certain places you have to check to make sure there's no linen. Why? Good question. I have to shoo away the mother bird and take the, and take the eggs. Is that logical? Not logical. Right? Keeping kosher. I have kosher meat, kosher cheese. I can't put them together. Is that logical? Not logical. Right? We, the Jewish people, are keeping many, many more things that are not logical, according to universal understanding. It's not logical. We're going to, leave the land fallow in the land of Israel every 7 years. Well, if you live in an agricultural society, how are you going to live? Hey, God will take care of you and give you a bumper crop, right? There's a promise. God will give you a bumper crop in the 6th year. Okay. But you tell anyone else, that's how you're going to live, right? You're living off the land, let's say, in an agricultural society. Now I can't work the land at all. You have to forget about selling it to a non-Jew and he gives it back to you and this. Forget about pulling any shtick. You can't work the land, period. How are you going to live? How are you going to live? Then you're going to say, well, I have to keep Sabbath. Well, if I keep Sabbath, other things can happen. I'm going to lose business. Other people make more money than me. I have to open on Shabbos. So there are a lot of things that don't make sense logically. We can make sense of it. We can understand what's behind it. Okay. Right? But at face value, there are many, many, many things do not make any sense at all, according to our logic. I only mentioned a few, many things, right? Many things that don't make sense. Now, non-Jews have to keep universal laws. Very good. We also have to keep universal laws, but we got a lot more. We got a lot more laws that don't make any sense in keeping universal laws. Even if we say they're 50, 60, 70. Yeah, we got 613. So, subtract some of those. So you get another 500, right? 550. Now those 550, probably 400 don't make rational sense. For us. Doesn't mean we don't have to understand it. Doesn't mean we don't have to keep it. We still have to keep it, right? It's not logical. Many of it's not logical. That's why it's, an absolute miracle for a non-Jew want to convert. It makes no sense. Unless their soul was at Mount Sinai. It's the only thing that makes sense. They got messed up through intermarriage and assimilation. It's the only thing that makes sense. Because otherwise, imagine you walked into into a prayer service on Sukkot, and you see everyone shaking their palm fronds, their lulav, and the rest of them, they're shaking it like this, they're shaking it like this. So like, okay, I grew up with it, didn't know what it was, right? But non-Jew walks in, they're like, why? Why are they doing this? Then the last day, they take these willows and like beat them on the floor. They're like, wow, this is beautiful. Custom. What people I want to be a part of. That make any sense? Logically? Again, we have to understand what it means. Many, many things don't make sense logically. right? They don't make sense logically. We still have to do it. Non-Jews are only commanded to keep things that make logical sense according to the Torah. If it doesn't make logical sense, they're not going to do it, right? Don't lie is a big deal. No one stuff is a big deal. Okay, there are things that make sense. Very good, right? Lying, taking things, misrepresenting, fraud. Yeah, plenty of things, right? Right? There are plenty of things that make sense. But I'm telling you, if you go through a list of the 613 commandments, yeah, even the ones that don't apply today, it doesn't matter. You go through that list of sacrifices. Things go on the altar, things don't. Blood spurting all over the place. Is that logical? Again, simple explanation. God's telling you this, you're going to bring this animal, right? And the only thing you're going to do with it is burn it up on the altar. Others you can eat. Others you have to have blood spurting on the altar. All kinds of other things. It's not logical. Many things, are not logical. So, as a non-Jew who could stop one of believing in those things, that's a different question. That's a different question. Does the non-Jew have an obligation? Right? Just tell me if I'm wrong here. If I'm asking the question wrong, does a non-Jew have an obligation? To stop non-Jews from doing things that are rational? The answer is no. You don't have an obligation to draw someone closer to their own mitzvahs, even if you're a non-Jew. A Jew certainly doesn't have that obligation, right? There are things that make more sense than not. True. But there are plenty of things that don't make any sense, right? And my point was, if you have 80% of the Torah, let's say, doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't mean we don't have to keep it. You still have to learn about it. You still have to, work hard to try and understand it. Okay. But you got to acknowledge a lot of it doesn't make sense. There is plenty that does make sense. Yeah. But even when they make sense, there are questions that, are not so simple. It says don't murder, right? Sorry, don't kill. We have no definition what that means, right? So you say in general, don't kill anyone. Okay. Now what about euthanasia? Well, that's mercy. Well, we hold that's murder. Right? So now we're going to go into definitions. What applies over here? So you can say don't murder, don't kill makes sense. What about self-defense? Well, that's not killing. Well, technically it is. You killed someone in self-defense. Yeah, but they attacked you. Okay. So now you're going to flush out the law, what it means. And there are certain things that we think that it should mean that doesn't mean. All right, I'll give one example. I don't want to get, caught up in this, but I'll give one example. Let's say, someone has cancer. Someone has cancer, and they're going to die. 2 weeks, a month, whatever, it's terminal, they're going to die. Right? They're going to die. Now, it's only a question when they're going to be buried. So now what happens if you suffocate them and you kill them? Is that murder? So you say, of course it's murder, you killed them. Oh, wait a minute, they were going to die anyway. They were going to die within 2 weeks. Let's say you can pinpoint it. They're going to die in a week. Yeah, they're going to die in a week. They're going to die. No miracles here. They're going to die. You suffocated them. Put them out of your misery. Your misery, not theirs. You put them out of your misery. Very good. You suffocate them. They're a dead man already. They're a dead man. Right? Or if they were treifa, let's say they had the status, they had, I don't know, an internal organ that doesn't work. And they're going to die within 12 months. For sure, they're going to die within 12 months. You kill them, but you killed someone who's already dead. Is killing someone that's already dead, is that forbidden or not? You're going to say it's murder. Ah, very good. Yeah, so maybe it is. Maybe it's murder. On the other hand, they're already dead. They're just lacking burial. So if they're lacking burial, did I kill anybody? I killed a dead person. Are you liable for killing a dead person? Good question. Good question. Different opinions in the Gemara, whether you're liable or not. That's the argument. If the person's already dead, they're just lacking burial. For sure they're going to die, so I didn't kill anyone. They're already dead. Or do you say, no, they weren't dead yet? Even if they were going to die, you killed them. You hasten their death. That's a different issue. Right? So no one's ever going to think in these terms in general. You're going to say you kill someone, but there are no definitions. So some things make more sense. Now, someone could say, if you kill someone that's dead, they're not dead yet. You could easily argue they're not dead. They're walking around. They're alive. Very good. Right? they're alive. But doctors are telling you they're going to be fresh in the grave very soon. They give them a week. Give them a week to 10 days maximum. No miracles. They're going to die. They for sure are going to die. Yeah? Now, if you say you killed someone who's already going to die, is that really murder? Come on, is that murder? It's not murder. They're already going to die. You just helped them a little bit along the way. You pushed them off a cliff. Helped them off the cliff, and they died. Okay. But they're going to die anyway. That's one part of the argument. They're already dead. The other part of the argument, no, you killed them. Right? It's not so simple. Even things we understand are complex. That's the point. Right? That is the point. Someone here says, consequences are you can get a disease, you can get pregnant, one can be married, but they didn't say anything. So what? So let's say they're extra careful. They don't get any diseases. And if they do, even if they did, let's say, yeah, again, I'll be ultra reasonable here. Let's say they did. And they weren't careful. They have free choice. Are they allowed to engage in it? They're allowed to. They should have been more careful. Very good. Right? So someone who says, I keep saying they don't apply to non-Jews. Yeah. It's one of those things that led to the flood. Okay. Yeah. Immorality. Murder. Idolatry. Yeah. What was the thing that killed the people in the flood? It wasn't all three. It was stealing. That's what sealed the deal. Stealing was worse. Stealing you don't have to give up your life for. Right? But when people stole a little bit from each person, and then someone else came, stole a little bit more, and they couldn't bring them to court, then God saw the world can't survive. Right? Wasn't because of the big three. There were a lot of bad things going on, but that wasn't the only thing. This is what sealed the deal because people couldn't live that way. Everyone would come and steal everything from everybody, and then, the whole world goes to pot. So then let me just answer the other part. Yeah, there's a direct covenant, but through many spurs, many rabbis have said, no one really knows who's a Jew and who's not. That's not even the point. That has no relevance here, who's a Jew or who's not. I'm talking about we know 100% these people are non-Jews. Period. We know they're non-Jews. Yeah? It's very clear. It's very clear, if they're non-Jews. Okay. If they're non-Jews, if it's not a universal law, is it something they should keep or not? You say they should keep a higher level of morality. Okay. I may agree, but it's not obligated. They're not obligated. They can be doing things that's not a problem at all. Right? That's for non-Jews. Right. They have a different standard to live by. So you can say, but, no one was Jewish before the flood. Very good, but there are other things going on at the same time. It wasn't just immorality that killed them. Yeah, that's part of it. Right? Idolatry was part of it. Murder was part of it. That's not what sealed the deal. And that's why when asked on Rashi, why is that? Why was sealing the deal? That's not an obligation you have to give up your life for. Right? Someone says, steal this thing or I'm going to kill you. You can steal it. You don't have to give up your life. But why is stealing in this case so bad? Why is that sealed the fate of people during the flood? Why did it kill them? Why did it get them? Why did it get that whole generation killed? Because people couldn't live that way. They couldn't live because everyone would steal from everybody and then no one would have anything. So that the world can't be established. The other things are bad. I'm not saying no, but that wasn't the full thing that killed them. Someone here says, they had sex with animals, gay marriage, stealing from each other. Stealing from each other was the thing that killed them. I didn't say they didn't have immorality. They had immorality there. They had murder. They had idolatry. They had all the good things. But Rashi says, go back in Parshas Noach and learn Rashi. Rashi says that's not why they died. That's not what sealed their fate. It was bad. Everyone agrees it's bad. That's not what sealed their fate. What sealed their fate was stealing. The other things were bad, don't get me wrong. They were bad, 100%. But that's not what sealed their fate. They had a lot of bad things going on, I agree. But that's not what killed them. Doctors aren't God, they made educated guesses. Again, I'm making things very clear. Very, very clear. Yeah, they don't know everything. I'm telling you, in a case, the doctor says the person is going to die. Yeah? And let's say, for argument's sake, they're right. No miracles, no nothing, they're right. They're not God, you're right. But I'm talking in a case they know. They know and they're 100% right. That's the case. Could something happen? A miracle could happen? Yes. Yeah. But when the Torah says if an animal has a hole in its brain, it's not going to live 12 months, regardless of what medicine says. That animal has the status of a treifa. Even if you checked it properly, you ritually slaughter it properly, guess what? You can't eat it. You have to sell it to a non-Jew. You can't eat it. So if a person, had brain cancer, let's say, right? And let's say, they all agree and they're right, and this is what happens. They're going to die in 2 months. And let's say they die in a month. Let's say they die, in that time. Let's say that's what happened. You're right. Anything can happen. I'm not talking about miracle. I'm not talking about something, above nature. I'm not talking about that. You're right. Anything could happen, but we're not talking about that. I'm talking about a case specifically. They are going to die. They're in the stage they're going to die. Clear. Right? I'm not talking about any other case. Now, if you know they're going to die and you kill them, why is that murder? They were going to die anyway. Right? That was the question. I'm not talking about external circumstances where miracle happens and they live. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that. Theft, kidnapping. You're right. There are a lot of things. But Rashi says, and others say, the Gemara says, he's quoting the Gemara, says that sealed their fate because of stealing. That's what sealed their fate. The other things are bad. They're worse. I agree. Immorality is worse. Murder is worse. Idolatry is worse. That is not what killed them. That whole generation. It's bad. They're all bad, all put together. I agree. But why does Rashi say stealing sealed the fate? You got to ask that question. You can't just say, well, all these other things happen. You're right. All these other worse things happen, but that's not the reason. The reason is because the world could not be established because people were stealing a little bit from each person. They would steal a little bit they're not liable for. Then someone comes steal a little bit more. Someone would steal a little bit more. And then they steal everything from that person. That world cannot be established. So God says because of that and how bad it was, he knocked the entire world out at that point. Not because of immorality, not because of idolatry. That all helped. Yeah, this was the final straw. This was the final straw. When you have that, it's like what's going on in America today, right? In certain places, you can steal up to $1,000. No one's going to prosecute. Guess what? Is that going to be good for society? It ain't going to be good for society. I need a new wardrobe. It's going to take $1,000, $900 worth of stuff. I got a brand new wardrobe. Place will go out of business. It ain't good for business. Is that going to be a breakdown of society? Sure. Yeah. Is that going to think that, is that today sending, America into a tailspin? No, not the only thing. You got people who go to jail to get out straight away. It's also bad, right? That's not the only thing. You got plenty of other things. Plenty of other things that are worse. But that's bad. That is a total breakdown of society, right? But what's on top of that? What's the worst thing? You'll say it's immorality, right? I would probably agree, right? Not just stealing. Stealing's bad. You get away with it. You don't go to jail. It's like, going to shopping spree. What's the problem? They can't do anything. Someplace. That's insane, right? That's not necessarily what's going to drive prices up and draw people to do other things. It's immorality, right? Immorality is the main cause here. President has to make, whatever you think of him, has to make a declaration that's male and female, and that's it. 2 genders. Let's say a girl's got brain damage because she got smacked in the head by a volleyball. Now she got brain damage because, there was a guy dressed up as a girl playing volleyball. And, and all the leftists, all the Democrats are sitting there like this. Girl got brain damage. Girl got brain damage. Yeah? Nobody cares. Because you allow men into women's sports, that's insanity. President has to make such a declaration. Yeah, that's a problem. They have to, think about it, what Obama did before he left office. Yeah, he said that same-sex marriages are okay, according to the Supreme Court. Now, that's a kiss of death. Absolutely the kiss of death, because the Medrash says any nation that allows same-sex marriages with a marriage document will not be established, will be destroyed. Let's repeat that, will be destroyed. Yeah. America's destroying itself. But you're right. So in that case, immorality is going crazy. Right. Right. There are other things also, but yeah, immorality is at the top. Immorality is at the top. But that's not what happened in the flood. Immorality was up there, sure. Right? But if you can't live and everyone's stealing from everybody, no one can live, then yeah, that's worse. Right, according to that. To the very last breath that's given. Even if you have to suffer, nobody has the right to steal their life. Okay. You're right. And if you hasten the life, even by a second, and you kill them, that's murder. Right? I know somebody that, they cut off the pacemaker, their father didn't want to suffer. They didn't want him to suffer. So they killed him. That's murder. Even if he's going to die in 6 hours, the doctor told me he's going to die in 6 hours, 10 hours, whatever, and he died in 2 hours, that's murder. Cannot hasten someone's death. Right? Right? Somebody says it's insane, we've lost a lot of business because of it, right? I mean, how can you let people steal up to $1,000 not prosecute? That's insane. That is insane policy. Not to mention people commit crimes or whatever and they get out of jail straight away either. Also, if you have no room with this and that, you got to do something with them. There'll be some discipline. I mean, the whole thing is out of whack. Totally out of whack. Right, someone says, unless Hashem has mercy on us, right, that's God no matter who's present. You're right. 100%. But this is how countries destroy themselves. All the great nations, right? How did the Romans get destroyed by the Huns? Decadence. Total decadence. Right? So what's going to destroy America also? It's destroying America. No work ethic. No, everyone wants to make money and do nothing. Right? No one wants to work hard. The work ethic's gone. Totally gone. Everyone wants life easy. Who doesn't? But yeah, a lot of issues. A lot of issues. Yeah. Any other questions? Boy, hot topics here today. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to stop here. I just every Sunday, 2:00 Eastern time, 4:00 Israel time is really 3:00 because did an hour early because everyone in the States or most places in the States changed the clocks. We're not changed the clocks for 2 weeks, so anyone outside of Israel, class is going to be an hour earlier because of that. Otherwise, so next week there won't be a class because it'll be Purim in Jerusalem, so that's probably where I'm going to be during that afternoon. But anyway, anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Mark Chaim Kaufman, be on Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. If you're on Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube, there I got videos on Q&As, ethics for our fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, IBBICHIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Wish everyone good.